Someone who knows a thing or two about elections and strategy is Cameron Milner. He joins me now. Come in a little closer, Cameron. GXO Strategies. You've been involved in 33 Labor campaigns, not just in Queensland, of course. So how does this one play out, and what do voters need to hear from Stephen Miles today?
Well, Stephen Miles is obviously someone who they know as Deputy Premier. He was the Health Minister through COVID and kept people safe through that period of time. But he's got his own profile and his own personality. And whenever he's been acting Premier, he's got out across the regions, he's met voters, he's actually made decisions. And he's gone down to Canberra when we needed him to go down there and get more money out of the federal government. So he stood up for Queensland and be a great Labor Premier.
What do the unions want from him?
I think they want stability, they want employment, they want jobs. That's what the electorate wants too. People want to see a government that gets on and makes decisions and actually gets projects moving.
Do you think the Queenslanders are comfortable with essentially the unions tapping Stephen Miles and really locking out any kind of democratic vote in the party room?
There was always going to be a selection for the next Premier when the Premier steps down, and unions have been part of the Labor Party for over 125 years. So if there's an electoral problem, we might have found out before now.
Why Stephen Miles, though? Why over Shannon Fentiman or Cameron Dick?
Well, all three of them are very talented, and obviously each of them have got their own skills and the like. In the end, there can only be one winner, and Stephen Miles was the consensus candidate between all the members of Parliament. Shannon Fentiman had a small group of people who went to Whistler and hang out at ski lodges, being her factional base. Stephen Miles had the rest of the party.
So she's seen as elitist?
Oh, she's certainly gone out to a ski lodge and spent time there, on a $7.5 million ski lodge, which is certainly seen by lots of Labor members as being a little out of touch.
Right, so she's still going to be quite prominent in this party in the lead up to the election. Is she out of touch then?
I think at the time, in terms of going to the ski lodge, which was a $7.5 million holiday away, that was certainly going to be one of her vulnerabilities.
Factional politics is pretty brutal then, if that's the kind of line coming out, and we're not even in an election campaign.
I think in terms of where we go next, though, it's crucial in terms of the whole ministry, including Shannon, who's been a very, very good health minister, settles through and makes sure that Christmas and New Year is where we get to reset and renew and refresh. We've got a new ministry coming in. We've got lots of people who are retiring and new ones coming in. So there's a huge opportunity for a new face and new way forward for Labor and effectively a new government.
How is it effectively a new government? We haven't heard anything from Stephen Miles yet that would be dramatically different from Anastasia Palaszczuk.
I think what we've seen, and we've saw it in today's papers, he said he's going to listen to all people. He's going to be out there engaging with the community, engaging with people who might disagree with the government as well.
It's kind of a motherhood statement, though, isn't it? We're lacking some detail at this point, Cameron.
The proof will be in the pudding. He's already said he's going to do that, and now people get to see him out there meeting people, talking to interest groups, talking to people who might have had a dispute with the government in the past.
I mean, the problems are pretty well articulated by Adam and others. Youth crime. Any insight into what he's going to do about that?
Well, that'll be up to the police minister and the cabinet to work through, obviously, in terms of the detail, that side of things.
That's the point, though, Cameron. These people have been around the cabinet table for years, and youth crime isn't a new issue. So are there going to be new solutions?
Well, I think that's up to the police and the community to work through at the time. But why
haven't they worked through it, is my point.
Well, youth crime is obviously an issue which is in the community, and that's been under Liberal governments, under Labor governments. It's an issue which we have to deal with as a community.
OK, but we're going to an election and they're promising to fix it. So is that just politics as usual, or what are we going to get? I'm trying to get, what is Stephen Miles going to be? What does his leadership and legacy look like? Is he the kind of guy that's going to look at the next 18 months and go, you know what, this is my one shot. What am I going to do with that one shot?
Look, I think what you're going to see is a new government and a new cabinet with experience on one side, enthusiasm and empathy. They're the three things I'm going to see out of the new Miles Labor government.
What are his priorities, do we think?
I think the priorities he'll announce today, that's obviously the Premier's role after the caucus meeting to announce that as he goes from Government House. But I'm expecting jobs and investment and a sensible decision-making that actually balances up the regions and the city's needs in Queensland.
Well, how does that clash with the federal government's climate change strategy?
Well, climate change in terms of Queensland, we're experiencing it, we're living it today. We're one of the biggest renewable energy states in Australia. We'll continue to invest in renewable energy and be the engine room for those new solar projects, those new wind projects and new pumped hydro.
And new coal and extending coal too.
We'll have some coal-fired baseload power stations. We've got the newest fleet in Australia in terms of that, and they're government-owned and they're publicly owned because Labor stood up against privatisation.
OK, so Stephen Miles, in one sentence, what kind of leader is he?
A great leader, and a great Labor leader too.
What does that mean?
As people will see, he's a great Labor Premier. He's had experience across the party, he's worked across many portfolios, and he'll get out and meet people and listen to people.
What's he like in person?
a lovely guy, actually. Very affable. People think he smiles too much. I think it's lovely. You know, he's actually got a really human side to him, a lot of empathy, and he's got a good Labor background.
He seems to like a fight, like a political fight. He really seems to like needling the LMP. You know, he sailed pretty close to the win with a bit of a character assessment at a union rally on Scott Morrison. That raised a few eyebrows. Do you think he'll have to dial that back, or is that what Queenslanders are going to like about him?
I think Queenslanders always like a bit of personality, a bit of character.
And a little bit of spice, maybe.
Maybe, exactly.
Cameron, thanks so much for joining us today. Appreciate it. So there you have it. It's going to be quite a day. Yeah, Stephen Miles has got a few gaps to fill in, I think, here, and today's the day to do it. I think he would have thought long and hard about what he's going to say this afternoon when he addresses, you know, special interests, but most importantly, the Queensland people. He has to bridge that divide between competing interests in the city and the regions. There's plenty of other news around today. We'll be here for you all day with every iteration, every movement here from Queensland Parliament, but for now, it's back to Chung Lei.
Thanks so much for that, Laura, for that fascinating look at the ins and outs of Queensland politics.